Hi, my name is Brandon Schmidt, and I'm here with Aimée Deraco, and we both work for YDOP. We're a digital marketing company that helps plumbers and other home service contractors with their marketing. And if you're like most plumbers, you know that you need to do marketing and advertising in order to keep your business steady or to hit your growth goals. But how much should you spend on marketing and advertising? And how effective is the marketing that you are doing? John Wanamaker, the famous businessman from 100 years ago, he once famously said, "Half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is, I don't know which half." Are you getting the best return on your investment from your marketing? In this session, we're going to look at the common mistakes that plumbers and other home service contractors make with their marketing and advertising dollars. We'll also look at how to measure the effectiveness of your current marketing and advertising so you know what avenues are getting you the best return on your investment. So I first want to maybe just go over some of the common mistakes that we see plumbers make with their marketing and advertising budgets.
Well, I think probably the first thing that I can reference is the old adage saying, well, we do this because this is what we've always done. So, we see a lot of home services contractors, especially plumbers, still spending the majority of their advertising budgets on things like radio, spending them on, some doing billboard, newspaper advertisements, and they really haven't morphed with the changing times. So, as the digital age came around and more of their potential customers are using Google and other online channels to find ways for, to find companies that are going to service them in their home, we've seen a lot of home services businesses haven't quite adapted to that yet. Another real pitfall is that they're either spending too little or too much in either a specific channel or just overall. Spending too little on marketing means you're not necessarily able to compete. So you're going to see lower conversions and then your cost per lead is going to be higher. And I know that sometimes it makes business owners feel better if they're not spending as much because they're trying to spend what makes them kind of feel good in their gut, but there is a threshold, and you can also spend too much on marketing. So depending on the size of your plumbing business, whether you have plumbing and HVAC or you offer other services, if you're very small, you have 4 techs, and 4 trucks, you don't want to be spending $15,000 a month on marketing. But if you have 30 techs and 30 trucks, and you're only spending $1,000 on marketing, you're probably spending too little. So, really making sure that you're spending the right amount based on the size of your business or even the size of your territory or the size or the level of competition you have. And then also it's measuring the results. So, if you're not evaluating how your marketing channels are performing, then at the end of the day, you don't really know where the majority of your good leads are coming from, and you could be spending money in places that aren't as beneficial.
It's really helpful. And you mentioned, marketing channels. There's a lot of different opportunities that, plumbers have to reach their local audience. You have digital ads, you have the traditional ads of, print, you have placemats, social media, radio, billboards. What channel should a plumber invest in?
Well, I think just from an industry perspective, no matter where you are in the country, there are some channels that we've had opportunities to test over the last few years that we've shown have a very high return on investment, a very low cost per lead. So you're always going to have those. But then there are some things that are just really based on your community. I know here locally in Lancaster for plumbers, placemats have actually worked very well. Social media has worked well for brand awareness, but not necessarily for driving direct leads. Radio is a good brand component, but if that's all you're spending on, then you're only really working that very top of your marketing funnel. So when someone has an emergency, they're not going to the radio to find a plumber. They're going to Google or Yahoo or Bing. But in all sense and purposes, 97%, probably close to that, of people looking are going to use Google. So it really, again, there's a few, I'd say, smaller channels like a placemat or a print ad or an ad in the newspaper that, depending on where you are, could work better than others. But I think that there are some tried and true advertising channels that we know have a high return on investment, a high conversion rate. But at the end of the day, a lot of these channels depend on your community. They depend on the area you serve, you know, the age of your audience, the probably the value of homes, what the level of incomes are for people in your service area, what your who your competition is and what they're doing, what your budget is, and then again, what your expectation is for return from your marketing investment.
Mm-hmm. I want to bring out a little bit the idea of the marketing funnel or the sales funnel. You mentioned the top of funnel and then, you know, stuff that's at the bottom of the funnel. And if you can imagine an actual funnel, you know, the top of funnel, we call it brand awareness. It's people that, you know, don't have a need right now, but you're trying to get in front of them and you're trying to just get your brand out there. Maybe you are a newer company and you're trying to break through as the challenging upstart, and you just want to get people to recognize that you exist. Maybe you've been around for years and you want to just distinguish yourself as the premier choice, or, you know, the local choice. So that is really good top of funnel marketing. And this is where typically direct mail, radio ads, newspaper ads, you know, all those things where plumbers typically invest their money in. That's really great. Where we see opportunity for a lot of plumbers is to invest more time and attentions into the bottom of the funnel. You know, these are people who have a leak, someone who does not have hot water, someone who actively needs a plumber. Right? They're not listening to the radio and hoping to get that. You know, they're not at the movie theater, at the diner, and looking at the placemat. You know, they are searching for it, and that's where the intent has shifted a little bit. And so, if they recognize your name, then they will search for your name. And that's great. And you should show up #1 on Google, and you should be able to, you know, at least get a call from them. But if they don't recognize your name, or you are one of several choices locally, then what they'll do is they'll do a search for plumber or plumbing repairs, you know, maybe include the location name, you know, your community's name, and that they'll search on Google. And that's where stuff like Google search ads, you know, the PPC, if you will, the top ads, you know, the written out text ads, those are going to show up. And that's where you may need to invest some money there. And then the local service ads, which have not really appeared throughout the entire country, but in most metropolitan areas, they have shown up. These are the ads that show up above the paid ads in Google, and they typically are marked with Google Guaranteed. And those are really great for bottom of the funnel, just grabbing people, grabbing their attention, and getting them to call you. Aimée, would you be able to speak a little more about the local service ads and some of the success we've seen?
Yes, and I do want to talk just briefly, Brandon, about the middle of the funnel. So there's three parts. There's 3 parts to the marketing funnel, and the bottom of the funnel, when people have a problem and they're going to Google, you know, back in the day, it used to be they pulled out the phone book. So imagine Google is the phone book today. So they're going to the phone book online and they're saying, I need a plumber, or I have a leaking pipe, or my sewer backed up, or my drain is clogged, whatever they're looking for. In most cases, it's very difficult for a local plumber to show up in the first organic result on the Google search results page. And that's because the big data aggregators, Angie's List, Home Advisor, Yelp, they are typically always going to outrank the small plumber. So especially on a mobile phone, it might be 4 full scrolls before anyone sees your organic result. So if you're not showing up in some sort of paid realm when somebody is searching for an emergency service, in most cases, whichever local competitors are going to win that business. So, and when I say paid, I'm talking about local service ads and I'm talking about search ads. So that again is bottom of the funnel. But in the middle part of the funnel, I think that's the important place where people are researching. So in the middle of the funnel, people know what they want. They know they would like to make a buying decision, but now they're researching the best companies to provide that service for them. So if somebody is looking to install a water softener, if somebody is looking to upgrade their water heater, maybe they want a tankless water heater. So no matter what they're looking for in that case, you want to show up when somebody is kind of investigating. So once you show up and they get to your website, that's when your website starts working as your bottom of the funnel. So now you want to convert them into a customer. So there are 3 parts to that marketing funnel. We focus more on the middle to the bottom because that's really where you are going to get revenue coming to your bottom line. That's where you're going to convert searchers to customers. As far as local service ads go, like Brandon said, they are the 3 tiled ads at the top of the Google search results page if you're looking for a plumber. So you'll know if they're available in your specific area, because if you search for a plumber and you don't see those 3 tiles that have Google guaranteed in them, then service ads probably aren't in your specific area, but they could be in a different county or a different part of your service area. So just because they don't show up where you're searching doesn't mean they aren't available within your service area somewhere. To sign up for local service ads, you do have to fill out information with Google, and you do have to have your technicians background checked. Now, Google pays for this 100%, and you are not giving Google your personal information or your tech's personal information. They have 2 different national companies that do the background checks. Pinkerton is one, which they are one of the biggest and most safe to give them your personal information. So when you do get local service ads running, you put a weekly budget in there. It can be conservative, but local service ads for plumbing are one of the most used paid ads within Google when it comes to anyone looking for a plumber. You're looking at about $22 as a cost per lead, and you'll convert probably 75% of the people that call you. Google only charges you when somebody calls. If you're doing pay-per-click, you actually get charged anytime someone clicks on the ad and goes to your website or one of your landing pages. But local service ads is different. You only pay for the phone call. So if you're not doing local service ads, that is definitely something that we would encourage anyone listening in to see if they're available in your local area or within your service area. And if they are, I would start the process of getting signed up. It takes probably 20 to 30 days before you go through the full approval process with Google. But yes, they are really, really, I'd say, the most cost-effective way to drive new business very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, local service ads are a great way also to quickly generate new business. So you can stop them, you can pause them, and then, if you're busy, and then restart them again, a week later. So it's really great to, have almost like a faucet of leads to come in, and you can ramp it up and you can, turn it down. But that's the benefit of being able to, with Google's local service ads, you're able to measure the actual return, right? So, I spent $1,000 this month and I was able to get 35 calls. And out of those 35 calls, I was able to book these many appointments, and here's, the actual revenue that we got. That's an important, number to measure, to be able to measure the return on your investment, because you don't want to be spending thousands of dollars on an ad platform and not know if you got a single call from that. Or if you are just receiving anecdotal evidence, here's, someone mentioned, that they saw my ad here. And so I feel like there's more people that are, doing that. Basing your marketing decisions and basing your marketing and advertising budget on your feelings is a recipe to, maybe not quickly but slowly to see your leads decrease or to see
Mhm.
your costs go up and not see the growth potential that you have. So, an avenue like local service ads is one of those great examples of being able to measure how much money it takes to get a lead and how much money you're actually going to make in revenue from that. And you can quickly do that math and say, yes, this works, and so we will dump more money into it, or we will allocate more budget. What are if you can maybe speak a little bit about how to best figure out the ROI for a campaign, or be able to run some of those numbers so that you know whether a campaign is working or not.
Yeah, I mean, especially with local service ads, I mean, we've seen our average return on investment is about 1,200%. So, I mean, it is a highly cost-effective way to drive leads. And the best part of it is you don't need somebody to manage them. The only thing you really need to manage with local service ads is either adding budget or reducing budget, or turning them on or turning them off. And you can easily do that through the ads platform. You don't have to write ads. Once you set up your profile, it's done. You just set your budget and you let them run. Unlike PPC, where you need a professional to be in there, optimizing your ads, changing your bid structures, writing ad copy, adding in, any type of incentives or promotions that you're doing. So it has a lower cost per lead, a higher conversion rate, and less maintenance, which, makes them a winner in my book. So measuring the effectiveness of a campaign, I hear this a lot, especially in the plumbing industry, because they do a lot of radio advertising. It's one thing that still has kind of stuck. And they say to me, like, well, how do I know if it's working? We ask everybody when they call, how they heard about us. And in most cases, somebody might have heard about you on the radio, but that doesn't mean that they didn't recognize your name, go to Google, search, find you, click on your website, and then made a decision. So radio could be part of the buying decision, but there's probably a lot of other channels that need to get the credit because it assisted you to get that conversion. So, when you're looking at a campaign, it really depends what you're trying to market. So if you're marketing some of your bigger installs and bigger products, like you're going to decide to do a campaign on a tankless water heater, and a portion of that campaign is going to be a landing page. A portion of that campaign might be a print ad. Another portion might be some display advertising on Google. You might run a Facebook ad. So all of those have a campaign look and feel. There might be I don't know if I said a postcard, but a postcard that's going out as well. Each of those different components of that campaign need to be tracked and measured in a different way. So your direct mail postcard may have a specific phone number, and you might not be directing them to the website. When somebody gets that postcard, you want to have a good enough offer that with an expiration date that drives somebody to call you as quickly as possible. Well, that phone number that we include on that direct mail piece is a call tracking number. So everybody that calls that number, we can cross-reference them with your system and find out how many of those actually purchased something or booked a service, or you generated some sort of income. So we would use that on any type of advertising. So whether it's paid search, whether it's display ads, whether it's Facebook ads, we're using specific either phone numbers or specific landing pages that we're driving people to. So all of those different components now become very measurable. It's important to understand how campaigns perform, not only as a whole, but as individual parts, because if every time we run a campaign for one of our clients and the only channel that doesn't perform is social media, well, then the next time we do a campaign, we probably want to take that social media budget and put it into another channel from the campaign that performed better. So the best performing channels, we want to add more investment to. I know as we kind of get through here, Brandon, it's a little further in our presentation, but the software system that you're using to book your appointments, to run your business, whether that's a CRM or an ERP, that plays a big part in how you can measure campaigns like this. If you don't have a good system, it makes it more difficult. But if you have a system that integrates marketing and marketing measurement, that makes it a lot easier.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're able to, in your CRM or ERP, or scheduling software, if you're able to tag people and say, this call or this booking came from a paid ad, or it came from Facebook, or it came even from a billboard, if you're able to make some of those tags in there, you're able to then pull reports and say, after a campaign or at the end of a fiscal year, you're able to say, here's how much revenue was generated from each of these campaigns. Aimée did speak a little bit about, call tracking. There's a few other ways that we can measure the effectiveness of digital ads, as well as, print and physical ads. So call tracking number, again, using a specific phone number for a campaign. That can be on a billboard, that can be on a placemat, that can be anywhere, so that anyone who calls that number is still gonna get to your, receptionist or your phone system, but it is gonna be marked that they saw this specific ad, and then that's how it can be entered into your system. Another great way to do that is through like a vanity URL. So if you're doing a giveaway, or if you're trying to target a specific community, you have a unique URL that is only seen on that ad, and it still gets them to your website and maybe gets them to a specific page on your website, but it's going to get them there. You can still mark that as this person saw this ad. Same thing would go with like a coupon code. So if you have a coupon code for, 20% off, or, waive trip fees or something like that, but you make them use a code, and you have different codes for each of your marketing platforms. So you have a different code for radio, different code for, a print piece. Any of those things you can do to make sure that, it's getting into your system and tagging that, then that's going to give you the information you need to be able to make better decisions about your marketing. And of course, all of this, depends on you not only having the CRM system, but also having connections with your website. Because if people are going to your website, they are going to be making a phone call to you, or they're going to fill out a form or use an online reservation system. You want to make sure that you're tracking all that information, so that you can, not just say, I got 3 calls. It was, I got, 500 people that came to the website, but only 3 calls. Is that a good number for you? Is that a good ratio? The more information that you can gather about, how people are interacting with your website and how people are interacting with your ads, the better decisions you can make about your marketing and your advertising going forward.
Yeah, and as a good example, so, through Google Analytics and different types of tracking that you can do on your website, or if you are working with a marketing partner, there are specific goals and data points that they can set up within your analytics, so that you can truly track where people are coming from. So if they fill out a service request form on your website, if they click your phone number, if they actually book an appointment through your website, you can track in analytics how those visitors made it to the website that actually filled out that form. So there are a lot of ways to track that. So if you're running a radio campaign, and let's say you buy for that specific radio campaign, you buy the URL, as an example, IHateMyPlumbing.com. Now we know that anyone that visits the website from IHateMyPlumbing.com, which we would redirect to your main website, you now can see in analytics anybody that visited, or how many visitors you had from those radio ads that hit the website. Or sometimes it's beneficial if you don't have a good tracking system through your website, or you don't have a CRM or an ERP system managing your business, you can do specific things within your marketing. Again, if you're running a radio ad and you say, make sure when you call, mention this, that you heard this on the radio to get 5% off of your service or 10% off of your service or whatever it is. Now, when they call, they have people telling your customer service reps that they heard your ad on the radio, or they saw you on this placemat, or they saw your billboard. So there are a lot of very inventive ways, even if you don't have the right systems in place, to start to measure some of your marketing for effectiveness. We are definitely seeing a trend that spending the most of your dollars in traditional means, such as billboards and radio, are really going by the wayside. And when we see companies shift those investments into digital, they're seeing their numbers increase vastly. I mean, year over year sales, 30 to 40% increases. So if you haven't made the shift from traditional to digital, don't just all of a sudden do it all at once. Dip your toe in the water, start to take some of that budget and slowly move it digital and see how it changes your business, and see how much more measurable that is, because the return and how much it pays back and the lower cost per lead can really set you up for success.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're not saying that you eliminate your traditional budget.
Right.
That still needs to be there. It's just one component of it. If we think back to the funnel, traditional advertising, print, billboards, movie theaters, any type of advertising you do that way is great for brand awareness and in driving, a bigger interest in your company. But the opportunities for digital advertising is where you're going to actually see a return in terms of getting more clicks to your website, more form submissions, more appointments, more phone calls to your team. So Aimée, as we start to wrap up, I do want to think about how long should you be measuring a campaign like this? How long does it take to gather this type of data before you can make decisions about how much to spend, what categories to spend, where you should be putting your marketing and advertising dollars?
Well, I really think it depends. Before you spend any money on marketing, you have to understand what your goals are. So if your goal is to increase more emergency call revenue, so, more people calling when they have a last minute need, that's going to be a much different strategy than a campaign that might be selling larger equipment. So that's just having a consistent presence on Google and any of the channels that people are going to search when they have an emergency. In addition, making sure that your website is set up in a way that a user can get on the site and easily find your phone number, easily find your service pages, know if you work within their service area. All of those things are very, very important to setting up a good marketing system for those everyday last minute emergency calls. When it comes to selling some of the bigger products, there are a couple components that come into play. Number one, you always want to find out if there are co-op dollar opportunities, which means the manufacturer would kick in some money to help you kick off and launch a campaign. So if you're selling Rheem or another big manufacturer, a lot of times they will give you half to run either digital campaigns or digital with print component campaigns. So maybe they'll cover half of those direct mail campaigns, or they'll cover half of your Google display ad costs or half of your social media ad costs. So those campaigns typically run for about 6 weeks. And we really make sure that we're measuring every component of that campaign individually, so that we can see where we had the best return on investment. In many cases, you can start to see those campaigns that have been successful and just repeat them either multiple times a year or at the same time every year, to really, boost your sales with some of the bigger product lines and bigger installs. So it's a couple different strategies, but again, if you have a goal to grow your business when it comes to emergency services, or just grow your business overall, if part of that isn't growing your marketing budget, then you can't expect to get more leads if you're not investing. Your company at some point should have enough controls in place to be able to say, okay, we know we want to grow by $100,000 in revenue this year. We know that our average cost per visit is $500. We know our average cost per lead is $50. So it's a very simple calculation to figure out how many new leads you need to grow $100,000 in business. And if you're measuring your marketing channels appropriately, you know how much your cost per lead is per channel. So whether you're trying to grow your leads just using Google paid search ads or Google local service ads, you should know how much your cost per lead is. And if you want 10 new leads and a lead costs $50, you have to invest an extra $500 to get those leads. And then all you have to do is multiply that by your average revenue per visit, and you know how to get to that end goal. So it always has to start with goals. You can't shoot for something, you can't hit a target that you can't see. So if you don't have revenue goals or you don't have lead goals, then you're just kind of shooting in the wind and you're throwing spaghetti at the wall and you're hoping whatever sticks. And at the end of the day, you just have no idea where your success or failures happened. So the more you can measure, the more you can make more informed decisions about, your marketing. And one thing, Brandon, that we really didn't talk about that we probably should touch on just a little bit, because I know a lot of local companies that I've talked to that are using SEO firms are getting a lot of content generated, and it's not necessarily always a good strategy for a local company. And I thought maybe it would be good just to touch really quick on local search engine optimization, which many business owners see as a free way to gain visibility. And it's a lot different today than it was a few years ago.
Yeah, so search engine optimization, or SEO, is just a way to get in front of the right people. And for most plumbers, you have a defined service area. You reach people in a X number of mile radius from your shop, or you reach people in a certain city or county or region, or maybe you have multiple locations. You've kind of defined this area. And so for SEO, you really want to just get in front of those people. If you're based on the East Coast, you don't care about anyone who's over on the West Coast, because you're not going to serve them. They're not going to call you. And so, for local SEO, it's important to give Google the right information about who you are, where you serve, and what you do. And, unfortunately, there's times where blogs or other content generation ideas are there to try and get you traffic. But it doesn't really tie into the local SEO side. It's really easy to get traffic to a website, but it might be coming from another country, or it might be coming from people like your competitors. It's not really traffic that's going to turn into qualified leads. And so what we always recommend is to find the opportunities for content on your site, or opportunities to grow your search visibility that's going to highlight and really target your audience and your service area. So one of the best opportunities is with your Google business listing. So this is the free profile that Google provides, and it shows up whenever you do a branded search. Whenever you search for your brand, it shows up on the right-hand side on desktop or on your laptop, and then it shows up at the very top when you do a mobile search. And this is where you see your logo, your link to your website. It shows hours, it shows your Google reviews. So that's probably where most of you are familiar with seeing that. So kind of optimizing that listing, making sure that it has the right categories tagged, that you're getting and soliciting reviews to get them listed on there, and that those reviews are more than just stars, but people are actually writing about your services and about the specific service that you provided for them, that you're optimizing with posts and with images and other information on there. That's going to probably bring the best opportunity. And then once you get onto your website, making sure your website's fast, that it's mobile friendly, that it has the right content, that's going to pay much more dividends than writing a 300-word blog post about smart thermostats. This, and with the benefit of SEO is that the investment that you make in SEO of time, attention, or money is going to pay dividends for months to come. With paid advertising, with local service ads or Google ads or social media or print radio, the traffic that and the leads are based 100% on how much you spend. So if you stop spending ads, spending money on ads, then you're going to see your leads dry up. Whereas if you're investing in SEO, it's going to have a compounding effect, and that you might get a few more leads this month, and then you might get a few more leads next month, and it just continues to get you leads as the time goes on. So so that's it's a little harder to measure. You can measure based on organic growth and organic traffic to your site, so you can measure that way, but it's going to have a longer term benefit. It's not as direct as I paid for local service ads this week. I paid $500 for local service ads and I got 30 calls. It's not as granular as that, but you're gonna see a long-term investment from that.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to understand that marketing should not be looked at as an expense. If you see marketing as an expense and you feel the pain of spending money every time you pay an invoice for a marketing service, then either you're not looking at it correctly or you're not doing something correctly, because marketing really is an investment. So it should be you spend money on marketing and you get a higher return from that investment than you're spending. If last year you spent nothing on marketing and this year you spent, $30,000 on marketing and you still have the same amount of customers, your business hasn't grown and your sales are flat, that means you're not doing something right, or your partner isn't doing something right for you. So marketing has to be strategic. It has to be based on goals, and it has to be done fiscally responsibly. So it's not, well, hey, you've never spent money on marketing, give us $50,000 and we're going to do all of this. You need to kind of walk before you run when it comes to testing out channels and understanding what's going to work for you. So, if anybody's trying to propose a gigantic marketing budget to you and, spend, $8,000 a month on paid ads, and then as an agency, you're going to pay us $3,000 a month to manage all of that. That's just too much if you don't have a system and you don't have a way to measure sales compared to marketing. If you're just starting out, your marketing budget should probably be, 1 to 2% of your sales. Once you really get established, I'd say that should probably be closer to 3 to 5% of your sales. But again, every business is run differently. Everybody's profit margins are different. So there is no definitive answer on what's going to work best for you. It's really just making really smart decisions, and at the end of the day, working with a partner that understands that making money is the most important reason for marketing. Your marketing should be making you money at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And so, just make sure you find ways to measure and to know your numbers so that you can make sure that your marketing is going to generate more business and not cost you money. Thank you so much for joining us today on this presentation. Again, I'm Brandon and I'm with Aimée, and we're both from YDOP, a digital marketing company who helps plumbers and other home service companies increase their visibility and spend their marketing dollars wisely. Thank you so much.
And I'm sorry, I just wanted to add that we are happy to answer any questions. So if you do have questions while you're watching this presentation, feel free to submit those, and we will do our best to get back to you with an answer to those.